Hello, and thank you for following Bionixx Coaching. Today, as the weather is getting colder, chili is one of my favorite things to have when it gets cold outside. So I'm going to show you how I make my chili. One of the things I love is it is so versatile. You can use, extra lean ground beef. I'm using ground chicken today. You can use ground turkey. You can do vegetarian options and just stick with beans, tempeh, different options like that to throw in there. So it's very versatile and you can really change it to your own taste buds. My husband and I have different taste buds. So this one is also really nice to throw in some vegetables. For someone like myself, believe it or not, I don't like vegetables. So I hide them in foods so that I get my vegetables in. So one thing I'm going to start off, I've already started heating up the pan, is I'm actually going to kind of saute the ground chicken a little bit just to give it a little bit of a cooking and then throw it into the crock pot after. And then I'm going to put everything in the crock pot, and this way it's going to sit on a lower temperature and for a longer time to really soak up the flavors. It's really nice if you have to go run errands or if you're going to go work, you can leave it in the slow cooker. So it just makes your life a little easier. I've prepped most of the things, so I've already chopped up some of the vegetables and things like that. So about 1 pound of lean ground chicken. I'm going to put that in the pan. Put that in the pan with some spices, so like my minced garlic, a little bit of the chili powder, just to kind of get the flavors into the meat, because that's where it's really going to get most of its flavor from. I don't measure a lot of this kind of stuff. I just dump it in because I love garlic. So in my opinion, there's never too much garlic, but you can definitely measure it yourself. Just kind of tap it on there. And I put it on a little bit higher than medium just to kind of get it going. I'm going to put a little bit of chili powder in, but I'm also going to add some more chili powder once I'm throwing everything in the crock pot as well. So I'm not going to go too crazy with this one. Just a little sprinkle. Mix in there. Keep in mind that the meat's going to cook in a crock pot a little bit too, so it's really just kind of what we call like browning the meat sometimes if it was beef, but in this case you want to see it change color completely. So I've already chopped up some celery. I have some diced tomatoes, no salt added because I'm going to be adding salt and different spices like that. I've chopped up a bunch of bell peppers, so the different colors. And that's one thing when you're thinking of vegetables, is trying to get all of the different colors, because there's going to be a lot more variety in terms of the nutrients you're getting from all of those as well. So I'm just going to keep this going. Like I said, this is where you can kind of get creative with, different meats you're using or different spices. Obviously, garlic and chili powder is pretty much my main ones that I'm using in this. And as I mentioned before, there's definitely vegan options. So I put beans in it regardless. It's going to add that fiber, that protein. It is carbs as well. So when you're looking at a meal like this, it's definitely like carbs and protein combined in this meal. But I got a little variety pack. So there's actually chickpeas, big lima beans. So there's actually some really giant beans in this one, which I didn't know, but that's totally fine. Big fava beans and red kidney beans. So those are all some of the higher protein, higher fiber beans, which worked out very well when I was choosing that one off the shelf. But you can do pretty much any beans you want. It really doesn't matter. It's whatever your taste buds. Fan on real low. Hopefully it's not too loud. Starting to change color a little bit. That's kind of what we're going for, but obviously we're going to get rid of all the pink before we toss it in the crock pot. And so this is how you know it's really lean, when there's not a lot of like fat juices. There's a little bit, which is fantastic, because that's what's going to give it a little more flavor, but you don't want it to have too much. So if you are using beef, make sure to use like extra lean ground beef. So one of the green options that I've chosen, and this one is going a little bad, is Bok Choy. So some of you may already know that bok choy is actually very, very nutrient dense. So it's the equivalent of like 10 heads of broccoli in one bok choy. These are mini bok choy, so keep that in mind. But I'm gonna just I just use my hand to kind of rip this up. Even with spinach, if you were to put spinach in this, I just use my hands and rip it, but you can chop it as well. Again, just getting that variety of vegetables and different colors. And again, I try to hide it in my food, so I'm getting more nutrients. I'm not a huge fan of vegetables. So just a little bit longer. There's still some pink in here. Anytime you're cooking ground meats, you don't want to take any chances. You want to make sure it's fully cooked. Just about there. I'm actually going to turn it down a little bit. I don't want to dry it out either. That's another reason why I put it on a little bit higher. It's just like kind of cook it through really well. And then we're going to put this on like a medium heat for now as we're adding everything. Once I know it's kind of cooked, I'm going to put it on low so I can just kind of sit in there for a little bit and really pull the flavors out. So I'm going to start by adding some of the base stuff. So strained tomatoes, crushed tomatoes, oops, a little bit of that in there to start. Like I said, it's kind of like your base. Diced tomatoes, beans, like I said, there's some giant ones in there, which that you don't always see, but there's a nice variety of beans and all of that. Good stuff, lots of fiber and protein. And I'm actually going to just turn this heat off. This a little stir. It's going to take a minute to kind of heat up anyways, so I'm going to continue to add all of the other vegetables. Since the chicken is pretty much already cooked, I didn't cook it super well, but it's definitely no pink in there or anything like that. We don't want it to dry out or overcook. So we have the celery. And one thing you may have noticed is you saw some of the celery leaves in there. Normally if I'm eating celery, I don't eat the leaves, but by chopping them in, there's actually more nutrients again in the celery, the leaf part of the celery. So I try to keep that in when I'm cooking it and any kind of stir fry or things like that. I'm just gonna rip the bok choy leaves off. And just kind of rip them into smaller pieces as well. You don't want to know that they're in there. And so if I was cooking a stir fry or something, I would leave these whole like this, but I'm not gonna put the big, chunky, crunchy white pieces in the chili. I'm just gonna rip little pieces of the leaves. They're really nutrient dense, and you don't need a lot of them, so it's not gonna be super noticeable or overpowering or anything like that. And we have our diced tomatoes. Now I'm only putting about half the can in there because I already have a lot of other vegetables and things like that. Like all of these bell peppers. Put a little bit more of this chili powder in. I'm going to be a little bit more generous with that one. Give it a good. And then a little bit of salt. I'm not huge on salt per se, but it's going to bring out the flavors. That's probably more than enough. I'm just going to keep giving it a good stir until I feel that it's warming up a bit. So you can hear me better. So again, you can just kind of dabble in whatever spices and stuff that you want to put it in. Just a little bit of garlic salt. Sometimes I'll put like a chipotle spice or something that's a bit more smokier kind of tasting. Super quick, easy, kind of put everything together, throw it in a crock pot, let it sit. And again, it's going to really get the flavors out. I usually check on it once in a while, do some taste tests, see if it's kind of the taste and flavor that I'm looking for. And then you can add different spices and whatever to make it taste how you want it to taste. Just give it a good stir every once in a while. That is a pretty quick and easy recipe for these colder days that are coming up. Super easy, but keep following for more recipes, more videos. and feel free to shoot me a message if you have questions or you have something that you want to see.